Good morning. Today is the third day of Nisan, the 11th of April. On the first 12 days of Nisan, we read the offerings brought by each of the kings of the tribes, the Nasim as they're called, and today is the Nasi Livnei Zvulun. What we want to look at today is the fifth reading of Parshat Tazria, and towards the very end, in Leviticus 13:37, we find the following verse. Now we're talking about lesions that appear where there is hair. There are two types of lesions. There are those that appear where there's only skin, and those are called usually just nega, a lesion, and or an affliction. And the word for the lesion when it appears in a place on the body where there is normally hair, like the head, is called a netik. A netik literally means to be disconnected. And if you look at the article from yesterday, I believe that we had something to say about that, the difference between the netik and the nega. In any case, now in the fifth reading, we're coming to the culmination of the netik, the tzara'at that appears on a place on the body that has hair. And so in verse 37 of chapter 13, we read, "But if the appearance of the netik has remained the same after the person was in quarantine, and the priest saw him, and so on, or if black hair has grown in it, the netik has healed." So we have this phrase, the netik is healed, it is not defiled, he is not defiled, tohohu, it is not defiled, the netik, he is not defiled, the person is not defiled, and the priest must pronounce him rid of defilement, v'tiaro kohen. So in Hebrew, these are very dramatic words. The netik is healed, the person is not defiled, the person is pure. Really, I don't know why you wrote here not defiled, rather it should say tahohu, the person is pure. Now, today we're going to look at this numerically, but nothing as complex as what we did last time. But I think that you'll see that the meaning here is truly unbelievable. So let's look at these four words. Nirpah netek tahohu. The skull, it's called the skull. We translated netek as a skull. The netek, the skull is healed. The person is pure. The value of this phrase is 1,118. 1118. This is a very important number. I believe I've talked about it in the past. It's the value of the first verse of the Shema. Hear, O Israel, Havayah is our God, Havayah is one. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And the Shema is the quintessential statement of Jewish faith in God's oneness. And specifically, what is the Shema saying? It's saying that Havayah is our God, the four-letter name is our God, or what's designated by the four-letter name, which is ineffable. Havayah is one. Our God in Hebrew is Elokeinu. So we have here two, what the Shema really is doing is it's saying that these two basic names of God, Havayah, the four-letter name, and just the way you would say God in Hebrew, Elokim. Elokeinu means our God. So they are one. They're one and the same. So we're taking these two names, Havayah and Elokim, and we're saying that they're the same. What does Havayah designate? The four-letter name designates God's transcendence above all. And the name Elokim refers to his immanence within all. And we're saying that they are one and the same. The values of Havayah and Elokim are, Havayah is equal to 26, as you know, and Elokim is equal to 86. Now the amazing thing is that the value of the entire Shema, 1118, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, is the lowest common denominator of these two numbers. So what does this mean, lowest common denominator? Let me say it in a different way. If you take 26 and 86 and you multiply them, you'll get a number that's both a multiple of 26 and 86, but it's not the first number that is both a multiple of 26 and of 86, because 26 times 86 will turn out to be 2236, 2236. But the first number that is a multiple of both of them is actually 1118. So another way of saying this is that if you took a ruler of 26 units and another ruler of 86 units, and you tried to measure just with this ruler, you can't measure anything that's a fraction of either one of these rulers, the first time that you would come to a number that could be measured with the 26 and with the 86 would be 1118. So what is the Shema doing? The Shema is in two different ways combining Havayah and Elokim. On the one hand, it's saying it. Havayah is our God. Havayah Elokeinu. Havayah is one. And the other way it's doing it is mathematically. It's telling us, look at these two names, 26 and 86, Havayah and Elokim. Shema Yisrael, Shem Elokeinu, Shem Echad. This whole phrase is equal to the lowest common denominator of these two numbers. Now, this was not mentioned anywhere in the Torah literature before our generation, before Rav Ginsburg found it. And it's one of these things that, if you understand the implication of what this is, about how powerful this is, so this is something that convinces people to start looking at the quantitative side of Torah much more seriously. It's an amazing finding. So, what did we have? We had that this verse that we're looking at, the skull is healed, the person is pure, is also equal to 1118. But here it goes much, much deeper, my friends, much deeper. And that's why this verse is so astounding. Let's now understand something basic about Kabbalistic thought. And I have to tell you, this is one of the things that it takes you years to figure out. How do you say all of the Lurianic Kabbalah in two sentences? Is it possible? Can you actually come down to something that would be like a condensed version of everything? What is the way to condense all of it? So I think after years of learning, I can safely say that what it all starts from and what it all really returns to is Rabbi Isaac Luria's contemplation and meditation on these two names, Havayah and Elokim. And let me show you one of these things. The name Havayah has 27 possible fillings. What that means is if I write them out as words, each one of the letters, Yud, K, Vav, and K, as letters, there are 27 different possible combinations, because there are 3 different ways in which I can write the Hey, and 3 different ways in which I can write the Vav. There are 2 Heys here, so the combinatorics just tells me it's 3 times 3 times 3, that's 27. So there's 27 different ways, numbers, values, fillings that I can have for the name Havayah. What the Arizal did, what Rabbi Isaac Luria did, which is astounding, it's almost impossible to understand how he knew this, but he realized that 4 of these are the most important. The 4 of these that are the most important have the values 72, 63, 45, and 52. And if you're learning Kabbalah for years, you just say Asmab. That's what it's called. These are the initials of these 4 names. Ab, Sagma, Ban, Asmab. How much is 72 plus 63 plus 45 plus 52? This itself is a very important number by the Arizal. And the sum of all 4 names is 232. Now, I said that the other side of his teachings is that he looks at the name Elokim. Elokim only has 3 possible fillings, because there's one Hey there, and you can fill it in 3 different ways. So the values of these 3 fillings are 300, 291, and 295. And again, when you really begin to summarize and try to understand, and if I could summarize for someone who really knew all the teachings, in the end I could just say these 2 numbers, 232 and 886. And everything somehow stems from that. All the different models, all the different explanations, all the processes that happen in all the worlds, they all in the end in some way converge back to these two numbers, 232 and 886. Now what is the value of 232 and 886 together? Together they're equal, you guessed it, 1,118. And again, remember, where did we get these numbers? They're the fillings of Havayah, they're the fillings of Elokim. Together they're equal to 1,118, which is the value of the Shema, the value of combining Havayah and Elokim, both linguistically, thoughtfully, contemplatively, philosophically, and mathematically, for lowest common denominator. But in the Shema, that's as far as it goes. But in this verse, this phrase that we're looking at, the skull is healed, the person is pure, nirpa hanetek tahoru. The first two words, believe it or not, equal 886. The second two words have to equal 232. So this is a phrase that, like no other. This is a phrase that in a sense encapsulates not just the connection between Havayah and Elokim, this 1118, which is the lowest common denominator of these two central names of God. Again, the transcendence and the immanence, God that is supernatural, and 86, a lot of people know, is equal to Hateva, nature, which is God as nature. But here we see a phrase that divides it into the two sums of the possible fillings, the four important fillings of Havayah, the three fillings of Elokim, 232 and 886. Here it's 886 is the first two words, 232 is the second, the third and fourth word. Now there's a lot more to say about this, a tremendous amount to say about this, but we're only going to look at one small thing that comes out of this. What this implies is that the healing occurs in two stages. Again, we're talking about a person who was afflicted by some form of this lesion in a place where he has hair, and black hair grew, which is a sign of purity. So the whiteness is gone. The purity, the healing from the tzaraat, happens in two stages. Nirpa hanetek, which we says is equal to 886, the skull is healed. And this implies that the first thing that needs to happen is that the name Elokim sweetens the harsh judgments at their source. We can't get further into this, but this is what comes out of these first two words that we said are the fillings of Elokim, 295 and 291. So the first stage is sweetening the harsh judgments at their source. What this means is, we'll see more about this next week, God willing, that the person first has to get over the judgments about other people, that we said that's what it means to be too white. You're self-exonerating but blaming everyone else. So first of all has to be a sweetening of the harsh judgments that the person has. And then the second stage, which we said is tahoru, is he is pure. And these are the fillings, 232, of the name Havayah. So what this describes is that the soul is now connecting to divine consciousness. And this is a general concept. This needs to be explained a little bit more, but tahoru means that he's pure, and we connect this to this concept that's called tehorahi. It is pure, which is the consciousness of the world of emanation, and that means that the person has now consciousness of the divine. But taking these two parts together, it's very important. You really cannot come to a consciousness of God. What this is saying is you can't come to a consciousness of God while you're still afflicted by harsh judgment. Harsh judgment has to be fixed first. A person cannot walk around in the world and have a feeling that they're against everything and that nothing is proper and so on. We're going to see a lot more about that next week, because the real healing processes of the tzaraat and other problems that are similar to it are discussed in next week's parsha and next week's Torah reading. But the first idea is that you have to be able to cleanse yourself of these harsh judgments, and in that sense it's like connecting to what we call the divine nothingness behind everything, I have no reason to really be angry at anyone. But after that, only after that, can I come to not the divine nothingness, but the divine being, the divine essence of God, which is not nothingness, which is absolutely something, and we've talked about that in the past. And that can only happen at the second stage, and that's what it means tehorahi, that after the harsh judgments in Bina, Elokim is always related to Bina, that's the first stage. After that is cleansed, after that is sweetened, as we call it, then you can rise to tehorahi, it is pure, which means that I've risen to the consciousness of the world of emanation. Emanation is related to Havayah, to the Father principle, and God willing, we'll see more about this next week. Thanks for joining. Hope to see you tomorrow.